Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are tuning in from. It is Monday, y'all, and it is Candy once again here. We are going to jump into a rich conversation around the difference between being selfish and selfful and how we set ourselves up for some really intentional self-care and why that matters. So just going to let everybody jump on here for a moment and let's get everybody rocking and rolling. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Let's see. I'm just trying to get the live open here. Let me know if you are here so that I can see you. Good morning. Good morning. I am just getting us up on the video here so I can actually... Ooh, I can hear myself in the echo. There we go. Good morning, Gabriel. Good morning. Whoever else joined, I see a couple of you jumping on this morning. Let me know you are here. Please say hello as I am doing this through StreamYard, and sometimes I can't see the comments. So I've got both Facebook going as well as the thread here as well. So let's talk a little bit about self-care and why it needs to be what it is and what it's not. First of all, self-care is not a space that is selfish. We oftentimes think that, or we've been taught, our culture has positioned us in a way that we think that when we take time for ourselves, when we put ourselves first, when we make ourselves a priority, that we are being selfish. When in all actuality, what I want you to think about is the fact that it is not selfish to make yourself a priority. It is actually selfish when you don't. And so what do I mean by that? And so I want you to think about this. I just want to put this notion up there. Making yourself a priority is not being selfish. You actually are being selfish when you don't. And so here's why I want to emphasize that today. Hello, Paul. Welcome. It is good to see everybody this morning. I see several of you jumping on. Please just say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're jumping in from as well, because I know some of you are from, all over. We've got people internationally in our community, and it's always nice to know who's jumping on from where. So good morning, everyone. As you are tuning in. Again, we are talking about why putting yourself first and why creating that space for self-care is not selfish. That it's actually the opposite. It's selfish when we don't do that. And here's why. What we don't realize or what we don't remember oftentimes is that in order for us to play at our highest and best level, in order for us to really be able to be in a space to offer our gifts, we need to be in a space that's full or overflowing. We need to be in a space where we feel restored and replenished. And it's why they tell you constantly to put your oxygen mask on first. Because what happens is so many of us, especially as leaders and light workers and healers, we give and we give and we give in an exorbitant amount. That's a hard word to say. We give in such capacity that oftentimes we find ourselves depleted. We find ourselves getting resentful. We find ourselves being bitter. And what we don't realize is in order for us to lead, in order for us to guide others, in order for us to show up and demonstrate what's truly possible, we need to be coming from our highest and best place. And the only way to do that is when we intentionally put ourselves in a position to know that we have to be our first priority. We have to take the care and time. And I love the way that Michael Beckwith talks about this. It's as if we have a social contract. And so there are ways that we get ourselves ready to be presentable. We get dressed, we brush our teeth, we show up, and we do these things that create a practice so that we can show up and from an external standpoint, we have a social agreement that says we're going to show up, we're going to bathe, we're going to shower, we're going to clean up, we're going to brush our teeth. We forget sometimes that we need to have that social contract from the internal way that we prepare ourselves as well. And so when I say that, it's that opportunity for us to think about creating that internal shower. It's one of the reasons, and for some of you, I hope you've already started, we are doing the 100-day challenge on meditation, where you are giving yourself 20 minutes a day to sit in meditation, in stillness, in some form of practice. And there's hundreds of ways that you can do that. And I talked about that on the last Facebook Live, and I've put some things in the group as well, that when you put yourself in that space for 20 minutes a day to give yourself that internal shower or that internal alignment to get your compass due north, you then are positioning yourself to show up at your highest and best level. If we miss that opportunity, if we're not creating that intention, if we're not creating that space to really, hello, for those of you jumping on, please let me know that you're here. I would love to know who's joining us because I can't always see on both Facebook and StreamYard, and I don't know why. Anyway, really that space of how do we prepare ourselves internally for being able to show up and be present, to be able to show up and be in integrity, to be able to show up and come from a place of presence, vibrancy, energy. If I don't take the care and time to prime myself, to get my oxygen mask on first, to make sure that my cup is full or overflowing. Good morning, Sherry. If I don't take that time for myself, imagine how differently I would be showing up for all of you. You probably wouldn't want to be as engaged because I'd be showing up with whatever residual, whatever came through in my dreams, came through. Maybe I didn't sleep well. We have all kinds of things that show up in life, right? Life's always throwing us these curveballs. Good morning, Bonita. I love seeing you all here. And I want you to think about that. I'm not serving at my best capacity if I'm not choosing to serve myself first. And so when we think about that, we have been conditioned over and over and over again that making yourself a priority is selfish. And I really want you to shift that and think about how it is extremely selfish when we don't. It is a space of being selfful. And I want to give you the delineation or the distinction between selfish and selfful. Selfish, the definition of selfish says, I am doing this with no regards to others. I am doing this because it's about me and I don't care one way or the other how this affects other people around me. Selfish says, I'm actually doing this without regards to other people. It's all about me. Where being selfful says, I'm doing this so that I can serve and lead others. I'm doing this because I actually care about other people. And I know that by taking that opportunity to set my compass due north, then I am going to be positioned, because one of the things I want you to realize is the gifts that we've been given are not ours. The gifts that are innate to us, the gifts that are our coding, the gifts that are inside of who we are and how we have our unique expression in this world are not ours. Our gifts are actually the world's. And so we have a responsibility. We have a moral obligation to offer our gifts, because our gifts are needed for others as bridge builders, as opportunities to shine light, as a way to lift others into their own expression. So that it's only when we prime that tank, it's only when we get our compass due north that we can put ourselves in a position to activate and amplify the gifts that are actually the world's, that we are here to express and offer as a way to help them on their own path, their own spiritual journey, their own awakening and enlightenment, because all of that doesn't happen in isolation. So it's only when we choose, and again, it goes back to the fact that leadership is a function of how we choose to show up. It's a function of how we choose to serve others. And it's a function of how we choose to take personal responsibility. Putting our oxygen mask on first is a responsibility, right? And so for those of you jumping on, amen, right? Amen. I love that. Please, for those of you jumping on, say hello, say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. Would love to know where from some of you are checking in. I've got the chat going. I want you guys to engage in this. This is a conversation for you, not to you. So I just want you to know that as I do these Facebook Lives, this is part of that self-care, right? Love that, Gabriel. I love that. Want you to engage in this, right? This is an opportunity for us to have a discussion. I don't want to just stand up here. I can preach all day and teach. Absolutely. And we as a community, we open up more access to be enlightened and to be awakened only when we integrate and interact together. It's one thing to just hear it and be like, yeah, it's another thing to ask questions, to engage, to share your experiences. So for those of you that are chiming in, thank you. For those of you that are jumping on, please join the conversation. Because as we talk about that, I want you to think about, Buddha says, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection. When we think about, and people think about self-care, you know, what's self-care versus self-love? Self-love is a space that says, I know the value of who I am because. And it's the one time that I will actually say when people say, well, why? That because is the only answer that's required. Because There is no why. Why are you worthy? Why are you deserving? Why are you someone who is of love, in an embodiment of love, and gets to not only give and receive love, right? And so it's that space of knowing that just because there is no why, you are here with breath in your lungs and fire in your belly. That is all that is required. You are here. You were chosen. You have a contract. You came into this world to share and express the gifts that have been given and coded inside of you. That in and of itself says that you deserve all of that which is available and in you and accessible. And it's the love you came in this world with. It's the love that your gifts are coded inside. And it's the love that you get to not only give, but receive. And so I love that. Yes, Sherry, my selfful starts in the morning before I put my feet on the floor. I love that. Because we're going to talk about the bookends in a moment, right? And that bookends being how you intentionally start your morning and how you intentionally end your day. And so I love that, Sherry, that you're talking about this space of, I start my intention. I start my practice in my morning before my feet hit the ground. I do the same thing. I start with a practice of gratitude. And notice I said a practice of gratitude, not an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude is an action, is a verb. It needs to be put into motion, just like love. We can sit and think and speak and have the best intention. It's only when we put it into motion that we activate it and actually breathe life into it. And so that space of being able to start your selfful practice before your feet even hit the floor. Before you allow yourself to be led and you're in your phone or you're in your devices or you're in your email, taking that breath, right? Sometimes it's as much as a breath. And our self-care changes every day. Our self-care, now there are certain things that I would encourage you to create some discipline, routine, habits around, knowing these are things you need to fill your cup. Again, your bookends, how you start your morning, how you end your day is absolutely essential. How you start your morning is everything. If you want to position yourself to be a light worker, to be a healer, to be a leader at your highest and best capacity, how you start your morning is everything. And so I love that, right? Thank you, Bonita. Definitely. It's definitely that space of understanding that it's only when we choose how we're going to lead ourselves that we can put ourselves in a position to lead others. And so that I want you to think about this idea. And I love the way that Parker Palmer says this. Self-care is never a selfish act. It's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on the earth to offer to others. Your moral obligation. And I love the way Jay Abraham says this, and I'm going to paraphrase it to change it a little bit because he created this statement around clients, and I want to use it around people in general. If you truly believe that what you have offers value to others, and by the way, just because you're here, it's that because you are here, which means you have value, period. There's no why, there's no needing to deserve it, there's no needing to be worthy. If you believe that what you have has value for others, then you have a moral obligation to show up and deliver it in every way possible. And the only way you can do that is by taking that very intentional space of your own self-care and putting it into motion. And so self-care can sometimes be as simple as a breath. Self-care sometimes can be that transition space between one conversation and another. Self-care can be, that was a really difficult, challenging conversation, and I want to honor how I value and the relationship I have with the next person, that I'm going to give myself a moment, even if it means I might be a minute late. I'm going to give myself that moment to connect to my breath and connect to who I am and allow myself to be centered and grounded so that I can transmute and ground the energy of what got me sort of triggered and wound up and allow myself space for resiliency. I always say that the space between reaction and response, that space in between is where resiliency is born. It's where the magic of resiliency happens, and it's where we have the power of choice to decide how we want to choose up and be in the response to, so that when we take that breath, that core breath that activates our whole being, it's breathing it into our body. That in and of itself is a form of self-care. It's one of the highest forms of self-care, actually, because it allows us to come back to a space of love. It allows us to come back to a space of grounding in our own body. It allows us to be present and mindful to offer our gifts for the next space we're transitioning into. When we don't do that, and when we're depleted, what we do is we carry the residual crap that's depleted us, and we start carrying that into all of our other interactions and experiences. And I was listening last night, speaking of practices, one of my self-care routines is Sunday night, I unplug. And so some of you, I got off social media and I unplugged and I didn't get on anything for the rest of the evening. What I do is I take a bath, and I have a recipe, and I actually have to give Danielle Laporte credit for this, because as she was talking about her self-care once, I was like, ooh, I'm going to try that. It is 3 cups of Epsom salt. 3 cups. Let me tell you what that does to your body. 3 cups of Epsom salt. It is a cup apple cider vinegar. Man, I can't speak this morning. Apple cider vinegar to pull the toxins out. And I do 13, because it's my favorite number, drops of lavender oil. And I allow myself, usually they say you need to soak in an Epsom salt bath for at least 20 minutes to get the effects of what the Epsom salt does for your muscles and pulling the toxins out in others. I actually allow myself an indulgence, because many of you know I do not own a television. And for some of you, you think that's very weird. I personally have made a choice that I don't want a television, because even the electromagnetic field that comes off the TV, I find disrupts my energy. I have done a lot of work to really tap into. I'm a deep empath, as many of you are on this call. And I find that the vibration and the frequency off a television actually disrupts my system. I can feel it in my cells and in my nervous system. Yes, thank you for putting that down, Bonita. 3 cups of Epsom salt, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and I do lavender oil. She says 12. I do 13 because it's my favorite number, and 13 is my lucky number. So I set myself up. I create it's a hot bath. And last night, what I did is I let myself to have an indulgence. So while I do not have a television, I do allow myself, and I get my iPad, because my iPad, it doesn't have as much of that energy coming off of it. I will allow myself to watch something that feeds my soul. I'm very mindful about what I watch in terms of movies or television. I do not watch much, aside from some baseball, which most of y'all know. I'm a baseball junkie. That does feed my soul. I don't watch a lot of TV. And so I last night put my iPad on my ledge, because I have this beautiful garden tub, and my bathroom feels like a spa. Again, setting your environment is everything when it comes to your self-care. So I set up my iPad. I created my luxurious restorative bath that I do every Sunday night. Sometimes I do it on a Wednesday too, if my body needs it, but it's my relaxation space. I had beforehand made myself a bone broth latte, which is a bulletproof bone broth, which allowed my system to just kind of cleanse itself. It's just bone broth and some grass-fed butter or ghee, whatever you want to use. And it's amazing what it does to your body. So I had a cup of that to help me relax and just feed my body, because I needed some more protein and fuel. I got myself ready for this bath. And then last night I watched an episode of Super Soul Sunday. And the episode that I chose to watch was one with Pemra Chodron, who, if you don't know who she is a Buddhist nun. She is an incredible spiritual being. Yes, I do candle lights. I love that, right? Absolutely. Set your environment. And it's funny because I can hear Peyton kind of snoring on my bed in the other room. And I allowed myself more than 40 minutes in the tub last night. And what I could feel is just everything being released from my body. It allows me, I know I'm going to get a beautiful night's sleep as a result. And it allows me to create that restoration that's absolutely necessary for me to show up and be available for everybody during the week. And so when I think about it, I have a client that said, and I shared this on another Facebook Live, but it warrants sharing again, that he's someone that was a big giver. And many of you are givers. You give better than you receive. And you haven't always taken time to put your oxygen mask on first, or take time for the self-care. And you oftentimes are depleted and get bitter, or just get exhausted because you're over giving and you're not replenishing. And so he was someone that gave to a fault. And we've done a lot of work around him reclaiming his power and him prioritizing. In fact, he even shared that with his wife and his daughters around why he needs to start prioritizing himself. And surprising to him, they were all on board and supportive and encouraged him and said, it's about time, right? And so he made a comment on one of our calls a couple weeks ago where he said, I finally realized that only by putting myself first, I have now made myself fully available for the people I care about. And so I want you to think about that. It's only when we choose to put ourselves first that we make ourselves available for the people and the work that we care most about. And so that restorative bath last night, what I love is Oprah had talked about, because we talk about Enlightened, right? We talk about this space, and we've talked about legacy before. And I love, because I'm not someone that thinks legacy is this thing we leave when we're gone. I think legacy is this thing that we leave in every interaction, every way we engage, any way someone experiences us. And I love the way that Oprah said it last night when she was having one of her conversations before Maya Angelou had passed. And she said that legacy is the way we leave people. It's what we leave people in every moment. It's that space. And so when you think about your legacy, because I think about the work we're doing, and I think about if we're raising the level of consciousness and the level of leadership, we need to be diligent around. And here's the thing, you don't know what your legacy is going to be because you don't know how you impact. And I've said this so many times. I say this in every time I do a presentation on stage or I do a training. You don't know who, you don't know how, and you don't know to what level you can impact, influence, or affect change for another person simply by showing up. And here's the thing. You've got to have the things that are required in order for you to show up. If you are not feeding yourself, and when we talk about self-care, I'm talking about that nourishment for body, mind, and spirit. I'm talking about what do you need to regularly restore, regularly replenish, regularly get yourself aligned and set an intention. Because how often, and have you noticed, and it's one of the reasons why this 100-day meditation, this 100-day challenge for meditation is speaking to me, because I go in and out sometimes and meditate, and I know the difference between when I sit in meditation in the morning and I prepare my day that way and when I don't. And so part of me doing this challenge was to help hold myself accountable. Just to be honest, I don't do well sometimes in that discipline. And I looked at 100 days takes us to August 24th. You know that? August 24th. Imagine what happens in 3.5 days. And I love it because Pamela Shoden was talking about last night. She will go into deep silence, deep meditation for 100 days at a time. And I'm like, how ironic, we're doing a 100-day challenge. And so I say that because it's the little things that can make a big difference. And so like Sherry said, I wake up in the morning and I've already set my motion for my self-care intention and my practice, which is that bookend, right? And so as I said, sometimes that self-care is nothing more than breath. And I love the way that Oprah says this, right? Breathe, let go. And remind yourself that this very moment is the only one you know you have for sure. So sometimes when we're like, I feel depleted, I feel exhausted, is to say, okay, stop, breathe, and bring myself present. Breath, one of the reasons why we follow our breath, and one of the reasons why breath is so important when we are feeling ourselves overextended or depleted or exhausted, is because breath brings us back to the present moment. I love the way Michael Beckwith says, we cannot breathe in the past, we cannot breathe in the future. Breath is present. So when you get connected and follow your breath, it's why in meditation, a lot of meditations start with follow your breath. It's not to like make you even crazier. It's so that you can allow yourself a grounding point and center to put yourself in the present moment. Because the only way we can truly serve is to be present and to realize that this moment is the only moment we have. Sherry, if I don't start in the AM, then my day gets away and off track. Yeah. And so that's what I want you guys to realize. When we don't create practices and take our self-care, because self-care needs to be a non-negotiable. This is the thing. Too many of us have said, well, I'll do that when. I'll give myself some space when we don't realize that never happens. And not only does your day get away from you, but Sherry, I'm curious, or any of the rest of you that are on, When you don't take the time to set your intention and feel into how you need to lead yourself, how many of you find yourself saying yes to things that are not aligned with you? Yes to things that 5 minutes, 5 hours, or 5 days later you're regretting? How many of you find yourself getting busy for the sake of being busy because you don't have clear intentions around how you want to show up? How many of you find yourself being led down paths and rabbit holes and responding to other people before you've gotten set on what is your highest and best opportunity for the day? Because what we need to realize is we need to take that opportunity to, one, set ourselves up for success so that we eat the frogs first. We get those things that need to happen off our plate so that they're not weighing us down continually. We also need to take the opportunities to be able to amplify and put ourselves in a place where we are playing at our highest and best level. And I love, because in A Course in Miracles, there's, if some of you, even as you're meditating, there's 4 questions you can ask yourself. Sometimes the only question you can ask, because one of the things, and we talked about this last time, even going into your meditation, is setting the intention. And there's 2 things I want you to consider, especially for those of you that are engaging in a 100-day challenge. And if you haven't already started, please feel free to jump in and start with us. There is no script, there's no prescribed way that I'm telling you got to meditate. It's just 20 minutes a day, consistently over the next 100 days. And one of the things to be mindful when you, even if you've been someone who's been meditating for years, one of the ways that you can, yes, Brian Tracy, Eat the Frogs, right? Great book if you haven't read it. It's all about those things that sometimes we amplify the energy of things that if we would just take care of them because they need to get done, instead of like, well, I'll keep doing it. We build this whole energy and story around how painful it's going to be. If you just take care of those things that need to be taken care of, that are those priorities that may not be the joyful ones, but they're the things that have to happen. It's amazing how you can access greater energy as a result. Because again, when you go back and when you think about your meditation and you think about setting your intention for the day, it's that space around my intention is to wake up. And so it might be, I want to wake up in my relationships. I want to wake up in my business. I want to wake up with my clients. I want to wake up for how I'm leading. Or it could simply be, I'm choosing today I've been given another day. And I think about the movie 50 First Dates, when, you know, there's that opportunity where Drew Barrymore has short-term memory loss because of an accident, and Adam Sandler's like creating the video for her. If you haven't watched it, I love that movie. But it's one where he has to recreate her life for her because everything past her accident, she doesn't have a recollection of, which means she's aging, she's got a family, and she doesn't know this because this all happened after the accident. He basically has a way of making her fall in love with him every day. It's really cute. But the principle of it, the premise is that we're given an opportunity to wake up again every day. Every time we make it through our dream state, we wake up from our sleep, we're given a new birth. We are given a new day to step forward and create at a higher level. And so when you end your day and you're like, I did the best that I could, and you close that with intention and you give yourself that space and grace, you wake up and then set an intention to say, today is a new day to wake up. Today, I set my intention for me to wake up at a higher level. Today is the day that I want to expand and become more enlightened in my own awakening. Today is the way I want to lead from a place that feels maybe a little more uncomfortable, that I want to serve at a higher level. When you set that intention for how you start your day, how you start your meditation practice, how you start any of your self-care, it comes from a space of, this is my opportunity to wake up, to be more vibrant. In fact, one of the questions, and I'm curious, I've posted this before, but I'm curious for those of you on here right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how vibrant, alive, energized, engaged, and present are you feeling in your life in this moment? Because if you're not at an 8, 9, or 10, there's probably some massive self-care you need to get yourself amplified. Because think about what you're giving other people if you're not at a level where you can serve. And so you set that intention to say, this is my moment to wake up. This is my moment to activate more vibrancy. This is my moment to be more present. So you start with that intention, and then you come from a place that says, how may I serve? How may I? And if you didn't ask any other question, oh, I love that, Bonita, an 8. 8's a great place. Let's talk about what would it take for you to be at a 9 or a 10, right? And so there's never shame in the question. It's just the reality and being able to lean into our truth to say, oh, I'm kind of feeling a 4 today. Maybe it's a self-care day today. Maybe I need to like move some meetings and do some restoration because I'm feeling really depleted and tapped out. Because what happens is we keep grinding through that, which further depletes us instead of recognizing, wow, I've kind of not been putting myself as a priority. Maybe I need to do that. We need more space for mental health days, emotional health days. This is the mental health awareness month, right? We need that space. Part of why people are depressed is because they've created such separation from how to feed themselves, body, mind, and spirit, and in how they just keep pushing and grinding and growing that out, right? Oh, I love that. I love that. See, I love that you got a reset coming up, Sherry. I'm so jealous. I'm going to stick myself in your suitcase and come with you. I'm just saying, girl, I'm ready to go. More engagement with your audience. Yes, I felt depleted in meditation. It's great. And again, that breath can help. And it's asking yourself, how can I be more awake? I am asking to wake up. That's my only intention. I want to be more vibrant. I want to be more. How may I serve? And go into, every time you go into that space, do it from the mind of a beginner. For those of you that are meditating, sometimes we get locked up in, I already know how to do this. I got that. No. Every time you tell yourself this is the first time, because you show up differently from a beginner's mind, from a learner's mind, when you know that you still have so much to understand and know. When we think we have it, when we think we've done it all, when we think we're good, what we do is we create a fixed mindset for ourselves, and we actually further kind of deplete ourselves in that process, right? Isolation as well, working from home. Yes, there are things that either drain, and sometimes the isolation is energizing for me, and sometimes the isolation is very depleting. And so recognizing that, because many of us are both extrovert and introvert. Many of us draw energy from different spaces depending on context and where we're at in any given moment. And so I don't like when we just put ourselves in a label that says, this is who I am. We are expansive, ever dynamic, flowing individuals. And when we give ourselves permission to feed and nourish ourselves along the spectrum, we then are giving ourselves the fulfillment of what we need to activate ourselves at our highest and best level. There are some days I need rest. And there's also a recognition between I'm tired, I need rest, and oh, I'm tired because this isn't a space that serves me, or I'm tired because I'm just making excuses and getting in my way. Saturday was an example for me. I did not want to work out and train. I also know why I'd work out and train. It is part of what I need for my soul food to keep me active and in this game to serve the mass amount of people that I serve. I'm on huge platforms. I am doing lots of things. There's so much I'm building and creating for all of you as well. Stay tuned. There are some things I cannot wait to announce to you that are ways that we get to play and activate and do this work on even a deeper level. And I can only do that when my physical body is at a level that I am activating the energy as my highest and best capacity, that I make sure that this vessel of my wellness is in peak condition. And so Saturday, I didn't want to work out. I was grumbling. I'm like, I don't want to. And it wasn't because I needed rest. I took a restoration day. Friday, I was on the trails. Peyton and I were out in the trees. They spoke to me. I was healing. I was great. I just didn't want to. And I had to honor and recognize, because that was actually draining me, the I don't want to versus the I'm choosing to. And I showed up, and I posted, and many of you saw that. I showed up anyway because I recognized the difference between, and that self-care fed me. Oh, I needed that this weekend for multiple levels. It was not my A game. Trust me. It still wasn't my best performance. And I showed up. I showed up from where I was at, because that's what I needed to actually fill my cup further and move me from a 5-6, which I was probably sitting at Saturday morning when I was like, and it moved me into more of a 7-8, where when I got together with a friend of mine who was in town, I got to be present. When I got together with a former client who we ended up being able to sit on a patio and really have rich conversation, I was able to be open and available for that. And so I want you to think, love the puppy, right? Yes. And he's so my space. Today he's at play care, so you don't get to see him in the background. It's raining in Austin. He needs a play day. Plus he's getting groomed, so he gets all like extra handsome and smells good. But again, feeds my soul. And he needs those too, right? He needs to go play with his friends. He needs that space as well. And so I say that because as we think about self-care is the act that demonstrates our own self-love. Self-love says, I know my value and worth. Self-love says, I am deserving and worthy because, not for any other reason than because. Because God, source, universe, spirit, Tao, Penelope, whatever you want to call it, said I had on this planet at this time for this reason. That is justification enough. That is the because that all of us are looking for to say, well, I don't know. And it's only when we choose to make our self-love the single most important thing in our life, because we cannot love others or receive love until we've learned and are committed. Some of us, it's a journey, and are committed to creating that space for ourselves first. Now, we also get to do the work wherever we're at, right? Start from where you're at. If you're still working on your self-love, great. Bring other people in that space so that you can activate that together. And your self-love needs to be that first priority, which then your self-care is the promise, is the declaration, is the action that puts that belief in motion. So your self-care is the, I am actually proving that that is true, that my self-love is my first priority. Because here's the thing, our actions, what our behaviors dictate who we actually are versus who we say we are. So if we get around saying, I love myself, but we're not putting ourselves as a priority, we're not activating self-care, I'm going to challenge you. Do you really? Can you really stand in a place and feel and own the value of who you are and know that you are loved and you are love no matter what? Because if your self-care, if you don't have a self-care practice again being the key word, I'm going to challenge you on, is there still work to do around your own self-love? Because this is a non-negotiable space, not a nice to have. And it's only when you understand that and you claim that for yourself that you put yourself in a position to be as powerful and magnificent and be able to put your gifts out into the world. And so Scott Peck says, self-discipline is self-caring. Your discipline, your opportunity to feed yourself, to nourish yourself, to set your intentions, to ask yourself. And again, going back to the Course in Miracles, the 4 questions that I love that the Course presents is when you ask, when you're tapping into your inner guidance, the Holy Spirit, whatever you choose to call it, that inner knowing, that space of connectedness to all that you are, all that you will ever be, the oneness, your higher consciousness. 4 questions that you can present are, where would you have me go today? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? So think about that. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? And when we can put ourselves in a space to ask that question and then trust that we already have the answer, we just need to. And one of the biggest aspects, aside from breath, that's critical in your own self-care is the ability to listen. And not listen to all of the noise and the crap and the shoulding that goes on outside of you, but listening to the whisper of your own inner guidance and truth inside of you. And so when you understand that, when you own that, when you give yourself space and grace to activate that, you then are in a position where you get to shine your most magnificent light that is your gift, that the world is open and eager and needs to receive. You get to do that at your highest and best level. So other thoughts or questions? I love the energy from those of you that are on the call. Those of you that are watching this later, please tell us, replay, let us know what you're pulling out of this. I want you to just realize there is a difference, right? Making yourself a priority is never selfish. Not making yourself a priority is. You cannot show up at your highest and best level until you know how you need to show up. And so I love this. Oh, hello, Peggy. Good to see you. My Yaya Graham. Oh, I love that. I love that you call her that passed away recently. Oh, deeply sorry to hear that. When someone would speak negatively about themselves, she would say in Greek, you don't love yourself. She died at the age of 93, surrounded by 50 loved ones, would have gained so much wisdom from her. Oh, I love that, right? Because yes, when someone speaks negatively about themselves or others, here's the other thing I want you to realize. When you speak that out about others, you're speaking that I am my brother is me. Or I am my sister is me. If you want I'm speaking in scripture, that we are in that space of my brother is me and I am my brother. There is no difference. We are one. And when we recognize what we see in others that we are negative about or complain about or mean about or project about, it is something within us that's to be healed around our own sense of worthiness, our own sense of deserving, how we truly love ourselves or not. But that self-deprecation, self-care is not self-deprecation. Self-care is not tearing yourself up. Self-care is understanding that you are a spiritual being having a human experience and giving yourself space and grace in the human experience-ness of it. We are so critical of ourselves, expecting perfection, when the perfection we seek from a human form is not possible. The perfection we already have available to us is that which is in us already, that's just asking to be expressed. You are already divine perfection. It's a matter of you allowing yourself to be in that, to know that, to embrace that as if you were embracing a small child or my puppy, and expressing that without apology, without deprecating, without judgment, without condensation. And so when you put that out there, you get to express your gift in that space, right? Maya Angelou kicked people out of her home when she heard them gossip and speak ill of someone. Absolutely. Absolutely. Brene Brown does the same thing. She has a rule in her company that there's no such, they don't do hallway conversations, which is also known as gossip, that if something needs to be addressed, it happens in the meeting. And you have choices if someone hears you grumbling or gossiping outside. One, you can realize what you're doing and say, you know what, the meeting's not done. I think we still need to resolve something. Or you can pack your bags because you no longer work for Brene Brown. And I think it's so powerful when you realize you have a choice and the power to choose around. That's why I said I don't have a television for a reason. I don't judge anybody that does. I don't have a television because 99.9% of what's on television is so negatively amplified and activated. It's why, like I said, I watch it on my iPad here and there, but I can't do the energy because it just jacks with my cells and it jacks with my nerves. It physically makes me ill. Like I get really twisted in my stomach and just, even if I'm not watching, if I'm scanning channels, the violence and I just saw a new Disney movie that's coming out. There's such a heaviness to it. There's such a and I just can't. And so I choose to remove myself from that. I also have very clear boundaries that when people come in my home, what if, again, that gossip, that negativity, that we don't speak to each other that way. And so getting comfortable saying, I don't allow that conversation to myself. I don't allow myself. I'm not available for negative talk. I'm not available to self-deprecate. I'm not available to judge myself or others. I am available for love. And there are two choices always, love and fear. It's a derivative of either one. Love, joy, gratitude, healing, forgiveness. That's one choice. Fear, anxiety, gossip, self-deprecation, putting everyone first before you, all of that is a different vibration. And so as we shift the level of consciousness, as we take that ownership and responsibility, how and what do you need to do to amplify your own self-care? It needs to be, when you're creating your calendar for the week, it needs to be the thing you put on your calendar first, and it needs to be a non-negotiable. What are the things you need? What's the soul food you need that nourishes your mind, body, and spirit? Because again, and I'm going to leave you with this today, you don't know who, you don't know how, and you don't know to what level you can affect, influence, or impact change for another person until you show up. And there's a responsibility for you in determining what you need to fill your cup in order to show up at your highest and best capacity. So with that, I love this conversation. I love that you are here. I'm going to be sharing things throughout this week to help provide tools. I already shared kind of 10 ways that you can set some things up for self-care for yourself on a daily practice. They are 10 easy things. I also invite those of you that maybe are like, I don't know if I can do a 100-day meditation. Great, start with one. Start with today being the day you're going to start meditating, and tomorrow make another choice and another choice. And you start incrementally one by one. And then Thursday, oh, I'm so glad to hear that. You are so welcome, Bonita. I'm so glad you're here. On Thursday, I'm going live again, and I am going to be talking about, ooh, this one's juicy too. Why your handwriting is your soul's language. It's your soul's code. And I say this because recently I was a little triggered as I'm hearing more and more schools are pulling handwriting out of curriculum. And what's being lost is our ability to actually talk to ourselves. Our handwriting is part of who we are, and it is actually a coding that we have. It's why when you journal, I am a big fan. For anyone that's ever worked with me, you know that when I talk about journaling, I want you to put pen to paper, because there's a different connection you have. There's a neurological shift. There is a deep subconscious resonance that happens because your handwriting is your code. And so we're going to talk about your soul's code and how you know how to activate some of those things and what you can be doing. And some of that was triggered again as I see more and more people not knowing how to actually write. And there's such a so we need to have some conversation around that, or I feel compelled to have that. And so Peggy, I love that. I have a big, beautiful soaking tub that I have yet to use in over 7 months. Challenge accepted. I love that. By the way, bathtub's my recipe, or I should say Danielle Laporte's recipe that I have taken on as my own. 3 cups of Epsom salt, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and for me, 13, because it's my favorite number, drops of lavender oil. Is a perfect place. Don't fill it too full, but a perfect place to actually do your meditation. It is a perfect place for healing. Put some candles on, play some very soothing or binaural beats music. I've been like doing a lot of my walks with binaural beats right now, especially in the space of abundance and prosperity, which is just juicy. And it's a phenomenal place to allow your body to rest while you are in a meditative space. So I love that. Challenge accepted. So I hope all of you will challenge yourself to step into your own self-care practice in a more intentional and mindful space. And I will catch all of you on Thursday live. And I will continue to share some resources and tools throughout the week. Just know that I love all of you deeply. It is truly my honor to be here to serve you. And truly my cup overflows knowing that this community continues to grow, and that together, these conversations, just you being in the community, we are activating something at such a higher vibration. And so that butterfly effect is taking on a whole new life of itself. And the work to shift the consciousness is happening just because we're here. So I love that. Challenge accepted. I love that. I'm taking candles. We'll add salt to my bag. I love that. I love that. Enjoy your trip to Cabo. Like I said, you might find me in your suitcase. Thank you. And have a blessed day, everybody. Radiant blessings of abundance, peace, joy, and prosperity to all of you. And your self-care is absolutely vital. It's non-negotiable. Mwah. I will talk to y'all later.